Welcome to Agency for Agents, a podcast for real estate team leaders and independent brokerage owners looking to maximize profits, effectiveness, and gain freedom for their team and business. Your hosts, Christine Andreasen and Aaron Hendon, have been running one of the most successful real estate teams in the Seattle area for more than 8 years. They know building a winning team means finding ways to empower, nurture, train, and develop individual agents to discover their own power, their own agency. On the podcast, Christine and Aaron interview thought leaders in real estate and personal growth to help you impact both your performance and your teams. We know it takes a lot, and leaders and brokers that crack that code reap the rewards of success greater than any they could ever achieve on their own.
Right. All right. Well, Jesse, we're so excited. We're so excited to be with you today. I know that you've been in real estate for quite some time. You've played a lot of different roles as a broker and a mentor, principal broker. I know you're the president of a Three Talents LLC. Yes?
Yeah, that's actually a small part of, but yeah.
Yeah. And then you've also, you're the leader of Rich Agent Coaching and so many other things. You're the purveyor of all knowledge, my friend. And we can't wait to talk to you all things real estate today. So thanks for being with us. Thanks for being with us. We would cheers you with some, yeah, right. We would cheers you with something a little bit nicer, but it's 11 a.m. So we're doing coffee. Welcome.
And you see, for me, it's 2. So what the heck? But
oh, well, then there you go. You could, in fact, have yourself a little cocktail while we speak.
Yeah, that's all right. Then this Lord only knows what I might say, and that could be bad. So
exactly, and we are recording. So
yeah, and don't forget, we also went through we went through clickbait. So there's that today too. Right? All right. Well, how cool that we just get to sit here for a half hour and talk real estate and talk all the things that you love and are passionate about. Yeah. So, Aaron, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, let's just start at the beginning, Jesse. You've been in the business for so long. What got you interested in real estate and what keeps you interested?
It's always kind of funny when people ask that question, because it's not like one of those really gee whiz crazy answers of, I was watching this but the truth of the matter is my father is who got me started in this industry. My dad's a pharmacist by training, and I grew up always hearing, if you really want to be successful, you have to work for yourself. If you really want to be successful, you have to work for yourself. The problem was he never defined success. So what does that mean, right? But he got me interested in real estate early, only because he was interested in real estate. He got his real estate license. Pharmacy then, kind of like it is today, the pharmacist would work, 3 or 4, full days from the time the store opens till it closes, and then they have 2, 3, 4 days off in a row. So he got his real estate license just as a way to have some additional income. Mm-hmm. What really intrigued him, though, was he read a book by a fellow named Mark O. Harrelson on really investing in real estate. And so he was, reading it, and he was sharing it with me, and he thought it was really cool. And so we just started working towards buying a property based on, what Mark was talking about, and some other people that we got introduced to through reading that book. So I've been in real estate since the early 80s. I actually had a mortgage company back in 81, but I was 16, young and dumb, didn't have a stinking clue. I think I closed 1, maybe 2 loans.
When you were 16?
Yeah. Yeah. It was called National Financial Network. It's actually registered at the courthouse. So if anybody doubts me, they can go check it out.
It's impressive.
One of the things you said is you say you broke all the rules. That would be one of them, huh? Starting a mortgage company when you're 16.
Yeah.
Where else did you break rules? What other rule breakers broken rules did you create?
Well, I can't take credit for coming up with that one. I've got a good buddy of mine who's actually not in real estate, in St. Louis. He's in St. Louis. And, he called me that, referred, because we just got to know each other, and was like, well, what do you do? And I said, well, telling him what I did. And he said, so you're like a semi-retired real estate broker, sold 100 homes a year for 6 years in a row, right? I said, yeah, 6 years. And you broke all the rules and became a multimillionaire in the process? I said, now, I don't mean to offend your listeners. I said, shit, Kevin, that sounded great. I'm going to steal that. He started laughing.
That's what I did.
He started laughing.
I love it.
But what he meant by that was, I mean, I have been in this industry for a long time. I bought my first investment property in 83. In 89, my dad and I started Pioneer Realty. And for about the first 10, maybe 11 years, I was doing around 20 to 24 transactions a year, which is pretty respectable. Mm-hmm. But I felt like I was going nuts, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, crazy. My systems were all by default. No systems by design. It was all by default. You know, you fall into a habit and you just figure that's the way it's supposed to work. Not because you've never thought about asking anybody else, just because that's how you've always done it. Mm-hmm. Never thought, the big challenge with real estate agents is that a lot of us, unfortunately, get our license. We have people start asking us questions. And so the next thing you know, we get that big ego because, well, we should know. We're in real estate. They come and ask us questions and, hey, we actually know the answer because they're easy questions for the most part. So because of that, our ego kind of stops us from being willing to look outside of ourselves and learn. But for me, I got to a point, it was late 90s. And I just said, I got to figure this deal out. I mean, I got a third child coming and the income was good, but I wanted a life, And so I looked around and I read an awful lot, went to a ton of seminars, which most of the darn seminars, unfortunately, I know y'all have been to these things. Mm-hmm. They kind of tell you like what to do, but not how to do it. So you leave taking all kinds of notes going, this is great. Oh man, it's awesome. And you get back and you start looking at your notes and go, what the hell? How am I going to, I'm not sure. So after a few years of that, I was listening to seminars on tape. Yep, they had these things called cassette tapes back in the late 90s.
I am old enough.
I still have the books that open up with like the 12 tapes.
Oh, yeah, the Cunning Nightingale.
Yep, got them.
Investing 101.
Absolutely, I got them. Yep. So some of them are stretched out pretty bad because I've listened to them so many times. But anyway, so I started to, and I've hired coaches. I guess I've probably had, in the past 21 years, I've probably had, I'd say at least 23 different coaches, probably more. So, it's one of those things that I'm a big believer in. And I mean, right now I'm in 2 different mastermind groups and I have guys and gals that will have absolutely no compunction about kicking my butt. Mm-hmm. But the breaking of the rules was when I was heading towards creating a team when teams were still kind of a new concept. And so after 3 years of actually getting involved in a coaching program, I hit 100 transactions in the first year, but it was a small team. It was just me and one other buyer agent. So we were very, very efficient. I didn't realize we were as efficient as we were until much later. It's interesting when you look at teams and you look at all the numbers of transactions they do and divide that by all the people that are out there on the team listing and selling, you're like, well, that's not a lot of production.
You only did 7 transactions, right?
Thank you. Right. Or I did 13. Yeah. Good for you. I did that much last month. Yeah. So, it is interesting. But where that breaking of the rules came from is I chose with one of my last coaches. He loved playing games. And it was a really cool class that he had. It was a 6-month deal. Mm-hmm. It was $1,000 a month. I had to send him 5 $1,000 checks in advance made out personally to him. He called those severe accountability factors. Yeah. And the way it worked is at the beginning of the month, he would match us up with somebody else in the group. And they would, we would hold each other accountable. And this was on persuasion. So he would give us a sentence structure. We had to write 10 sentences every day, Monday through Friday, send them back and forth to each other. We also had to, at the beginning of the month, determine how many listings we were going to take, how many sales we were going to make. And if we wanted to add other stuff in, we could do that. Miles ran, weight lifted, whatever. At the end of the month, we check in. And if we didn't do our sentences, he'd cash a check. If we didn't take the number of listings we said we were going to do or make the number of sales we were going to make, he'd cash a check. Love that daggone class. I loved it. Yeah. I repeated it for a second time. It was awesome. And somewhere during that second, I said, Matthew, I got an idea. He goes, what's that? I want to play a game. He's like, oh, because he loves games. What's the game? I said, well, the rules are simple. I don't want to ever have to see the seller. I don't want to see the house. I want to list it at a price that I've chosen in advance, but I want them to, I want to position it so they feel like they chose it, right?
Sure.
I want to list the thing at a full price, or at that price and at a full commission, handle the entire transaction. And I want to create raving fans out of them so that they're actively every day looking for people they can send to me so that I don't have to feel like I'm begging for referrals. He goes, that's cool. How are you going to do it? I said, I don't know. So it took about, this doesn't happen overnight. It takes a little while, but I had gotten to the point where, let's see, the last year and a half to 2 years, I had no team. It was just me and one assistant. I was doing 100 transactions a year. 40% of my listings were from playing the game. And I was working about 3.5 days a week. That's when it kind of dawned on me. It's really about efficiency. Yeah. It's about systems, the unsexy part of real estate. Because what everybody wants to do is sell agents. They want to sell agents the whiz bang, gee whiz, bright, shiny Instagram trick, the Facebook hack, the whatever it is, the gadget, the gimmick. Well, the problem though is with Facebook, Instagram, well, same damn company, they can turn that off like that. And so for me, I think basics makes all the sense in the world. Just go back to basics. And, the honest to gosh truth of it is everything that I share with people is exactly what I did. I mean, it's from all of the policies, the procedures, the systems, the techniques, the tricks, everything that I've learned since 1989, well, actually 83 till now is what I share with those folks that I coach. So that's where that broke all the rules, because, I mean, it's kind of cool when you don't have to go see anybody to list the home for sale. And the funny part about it was I have actually run into people a couple of times at other events and other locations, and people go, wait a minute, could you give your name when you're signing in or coming in or whatever, and they go, wait a minute, you're Jesse Lennon? I go, yeah. Jesse with Pioneer Realty? Yep, that's me. And something else, and they go, oh, well, I'm so-and-so. You listed our home and got it sold for us. So, oh, great. Everything working out okay? Yeah. So it's just kind of cool when that happens.
That is very cool. And so just so people know, right? I'm now really interested. Is that the kind of thing that you included in your book, the irresistibleness? Is that?
Irresistibleness is more about very powerful persuasion techniques, language patterns. Mm-hmm. And it's actually the notes from that course that I went through. It's, my notes, which most of it's really almost verbatim from that guy's class. But what you're going to get behind that is, I think it's like 1,473, I think it is, sentences that I've written.
Wow.
And so as a result of going through that, I mean, the truth of the matter is I was going to sign up for it a third time, but he quit teaching the class. And I think that's been, I want to say around 13 and a half, maybe 14 years now. I'd sign up for it again in a heartbeat if he was doing it again. Because
there's nothing like accountability, right? I mean, I
agree with you.
Serious accountability.
Yeah, it is.
When we sell the team to people, when we're bringing people onto the team and they're asking what's the value of a team, that's my number one thing. I mean, that's how I doubled my business last year, was the accountability to come out of the pandemic, when things closed down and then things started to open up again, without making promises every day. I no way would I have made double. Right. No way. Right. I'm not making promises. What are you doing?
Well, it's not only making the promises, but being someone who has such a relationship to your word that you don't want to fail. You don't want to be the guy that's giving away the $1,000. Oh, Aaron's done that too. Aaron's literally promised me if he didn't do something by a certain amount of time, he was going to donate money to a political party, not of his choice, right? We've played that game before, so I'm with you. It makes a difference.
I'll tell you what we had done. We chose very similar, Aaron. I wrote a check for, I think it was like $500. Wasn't a lot of money, $500. And I wrote a heartfelt, handwritten note to a real estate agent in the area that I really did not like.
Yep.
And to this day, I don't care for the fellow that much. But I was telling him how wonderful he is, how great this guy is, how much I really admired him. And I just look, here's $500. Give it to whatever charity you want, cash it, spend it however you want. It's yours. Thank you. So that was, I wrote the check in an envelope, a thank you envelope, and I put that inside of another envelope and mailed that to my partner. Right. So that if I didn't, she already had it, just goes in the mail. There was another group, though, that took it to a slightly different level. There was this fella that used to teach this class. He used to have really large events. I mean, there's like 1,100 people or so in the room, right? And so what another group that he was coaching decided to do was for themselves and their own accountability, talk about accountability, raising the stakes, between here and here, when the event was going to take place, if they didn't do what they committed to do, whoever lost was going to get up on the stage before it actually kicked off and have to eat a can of cat food. And I'm like, oh, that just sounds horrible.
That is horrible.
You talk about accountability, right? Nobody wants to be the guy or the gal on the stage with a fork and have somebody handed them a can of cat food.
And in that, someone's going to do it. That's intense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Very
but
good.
you know, the big challenge is you have to be willing to play full out, and you have to be somebody of your word. You have to be accountable.
Totally.
You know, and most people, it sounds great and they're willing to pay it lip service, but they may not be willing to actually do it.
Yeah.
So obviously you guys are people that are willing to play full out. And I applaud you for that. I really do, because there aren't many people out there that are. I figured I'm only as good as my word. So I'm very careful
100%
with what I tell somebody I'm going to do and when I'm going to do it by, because I don't want to be the guy or, you know, that goes, I couldn't do it. Now, sometimes crap happens and comes up, you know, completely out of left field, but you have to let people know, hey, here's what's happened. And I'm going to be a little late for whatever reason.
Sure, I mean, if you don't break your word every now and then, you're not playing a big enough game. So you've got to put it out there, and then, you know, sometimes I'm going to fail, but I'm responsible for where I didn't do that. I'm responsible 100% in that one on me. And here's my new promise. Right.
Yeah. And by the way, if the people watching this really want to endear themselves to like they're going on the listing appointment to their prospect. Yeah. One simple thing to do, which is going to seem odd.
Yeah.
But it's amazing because it's very subliminal as to how it impacts the listener or the prospect. We've all been in that position where we're driving to that listing appointment. I mean, look, I only took 40% of them without having to go see them. The other 60% I had to go show up, right? But sometimes crap happens. And my goal was to always be a minimum of 5 minutes early, because I figured if I'm not 5 minutes early, I'm late.
Totally. With you.
But sometimes crap happens and you get late, especially nowadays, because we didn't have GPS then. We had these big things called maps, you know, where you flip the page and never mind, I'll shut up. So, you know, you're heading down the road, something happens, you're late. Call that prospect. And it's a simple script. You go, hi, Mr. Hendon, look, this is Jesse. And, you know, with Pioneer Realty, and I know I've got an appointment to meet you today. And, you know, I am not in your driveway. I'm at the other end of your block and I'm heading to you, but I was caught up in traffic. I know your time is valuable. Do you still have time for us to meet today, or should we reschedule? I'm heading in your direction. I'm just not there yet. Now, every time I've said that to people, they chuckle like, why are you calling? Come on.
You're 5 minutes. Come on. Right.
Big deal. But I mean, I'm calling them before.
Yeah, absolutely.
And because it honors their time. And most people never think of it that way. It's all about themselves. It's about me.
It's so good. I never hear anyone else talk about that, but I do that all the time. And the funny thing is, my experience with that is, if it looks like I'm going to be late and I communicate that it looks like I'm going to be late, right? Like you can see, you can always tell, they're going to find out. So what are you hiding from? Right. You're going to be late. This isn't like something you're going to be able to hide. And every time it looks like, because I live on an island and the only way to get off the island is a boat. There's no bridge. So, and the boats are
unreliable at best.
They're not as reliable as I'd like. Okay. So from time to time, you know, there's, you know, whatever. But every time I communicate that it looks like I'm going to be late, I would say 90% or better, I wind up being on time. And every time I don't communicate and I try and just race, I'm late. Just being in communication takes something out of the space that allows for something to happen. I don't know where you are in the domain of magic, but I am very much
the power of intention.
Yeah, that integrity allows for magic and something unforeseen to happen. So yeah, Jesse, it's great that you said that, because I think it's a really great lesson for people to teach their new agents.
In our line of work, Jesse, I mean, we are infamous for being late, right? One of the things that we do teach our agents is if you have a 2:00 appointment, you show up 10 minutes before, sit there, you get to check your phone. You're all caught up. You're not rushed. You're not crazy. You walk up to that door 1 minute before and you go, hi, Jesse, I'm Christine. We had a 2:00 appointment. It's 2:00 because the next guy's coming in for his 4:00 and he's going to show up at 4:10 and I just won.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
I love it. We're all on the same page there. And the people that show up at 4:10, they're like, what's 10 minutes? It's everything when it comes to your word.
But you see, they don't think about it like that. That's the challenge.
Yeah.
And the other thing too, is when you get there, it doesn't matter one fuzzy rat's butt difference. What happened the appointment before, if you got out and accidentally hit your knee with the door when you were closing it, if somebody ran over your foot earlier in the day, I mean, if you're in the emergency room, get your foot band, cast or something like that, call, but the reality of it is when you show up, it's showtime. It really is.
That's right. They don't care why you're. Yeah. Jesse, a lot of the people watching, a lot of the listeners are, boutique brokerage owners, small, mom and pop brokers, team leaders like that. When you're working with a team leader, what do you say to them that empowers them to empower others?
Really, when I first heard this, I thought to myself, well, that seems a little weird, but okay. The gentleman was doing is he was talking to brokers, broker owners, because then remember now, this didn't really have a lot to do with we didn't really hear teams back then very often.
Right.
But the idea still applies. And what he said was, if you will teach your agents what is effective, how they can be better, whether it's from the working with sellers, working with buyers, just plain business practices and business principles, if you can teach them, if they're always learning from you, they will stay with you. Because it's not about for most agents, it's not about who has the best split. A lot of people think that.
Yeah, no.
But he said the reality of it is are you really feeding them? Are they coming to you empty, and are you filling their cup, their vessel, their plate? I mean, however you want to think of it, that's up to you. But are you teaching them, and are they coming away learning something, being a little better off? And I think he's absolutely right. Yeah. So now I'm a little different than a lot of people. Granted, I'm a lot different than a lot of people. The reclusive part of it was because I never did the advertising. Now look, I did. At one point, I had a big ego. I mean, it would have been tough to fit it inside of my office building. I mean, don't you know who I am? But the reality of it is nobody gives a fuzzy rat's butt. They really don't give a crap about you. They care about themselves. And so I had to get my ego out of the way. And I don't have an ego. So I didn't advertise. Nobody knew what it was I was doing to list and sell homes. They just knew they saw my signs everywhere. So, it was really about teaching the guy, because I had 2 different buyer agents during the time I had my team, and I had 2 full-time and 1 part-time assistant. Now there was one lady that was with me for an exceptionally lengthy period of time. The others kind of cycled in and out, that role. But it was teach them. So if I'm learning something, some of my coaches are sharing with me something, I'm teaching it to them. And I wanted them to turn it in or turn it around. So take it from, as an example, let's use those sentences that I wrote. A lot of those had to do with prospecting, right? Sure. So, and qualifying people and what I'm going to say at a listing appointment to answer or handle an objection or a question. Well, if that assistant, her role is working with people before it goes under contract, well, you need to write sentences and learn based on that. And you share your sentences with me. I'll critique them. We can role play, those kinds of things.
Yeah.
So, but it's just really, it's get the ego out of the way. And a lot of people are very concerned. Well, if I teach them and they wind up listing and selling more, they're going to leave me. They're going to go somewhere else. Flawed thinking.
Yeah.
I think Aaron's going to sell more than I'm like almost out of production my own self. And there is nothing better than watching Aaron flourish and produce me, right? I mean, who doesn't want to be outproduced by somebody that you are actually getting up underneath? And now Aaron's doing it with all of our agents, get up underneath them. I don't know, Aaron, I don't know if you are yet ready for somebody to kick your butt, but it's still kind of fun to watch them grow and rock and roll, right?
Yeah.
Awesome.
I have a question for you. What do you think is one of the most important actions you take every single day that contributes to your success that you could actually pass on to somebody who's building a team or building a brokerage or, I saw you look back.
I was wondering where the heck I was wondering where I had it. So yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're perfectly right on. I thought, oh, he's looking for something. And again, this isn't necessarily, when we were looking at the topic, when we were asked to do this podcast, one of the things we said is we don't want to be another podcast out there saying, here's how you sell 15 more houses a month. We really do want it to be inside of people having an abundant life. You mentioned working 3.5 days, right? Having the time to love your life and live a life you love and have a flourishing business and all of that at the same time. So my question to you is, what's one action you take every day that really contributes to that?
The truth of the matter is there's not probably just one, but I think the biggest one is in the mornings.
Yes.
There are 5 things that I write down, 3 that I do every morning irregardless. One is a kind of a bonus if I can get it in. The other is for the afternoon. Okay. So the first is pray.
Yep.
The second is meditate.
Yep.
And then but it's not like the Om and I'm burning incense. It's just a short meditation. Uh-huh. I journal, which is just kind of a review of what I did yesterday, and then just kind of set up the next day. And then it's a read and exercise. Now, in addition to that, the one other, because I write that down and that's on the board, is to make the distinction between a schedule and a to-do list. So I do my to-do list the night before. A schedule, which everybody always confuses schedules and to-do list, but a schedule has a set start and stop time.
That's right.
And so the one thing that the agents should all have at this point, and if they don't, they should certainly start doing, is I'm going to wake up at this time and I'm going to go to bed at this time. And if they really want to be successful as possible, make that interval as airtight as they possibly can, but put in everything that they want to do, meaning, I'm home or I'm leaving for home by this time. This time I'm having, dinner. This is time with family, what have you. Or even if it's just to decompress and watch TV, but to have that to-do list. And one of my buyer agents actually, first one actually turned me on to a simple technique that I think, if my memory serves me, he said it was taught to him when his company was going through ISO 9000 certification.
Interesting.
And then I found out, dagnabbit, Donald Trump does the same thing. Like him or not, he was a pretty successful and prolific business guy. He took it a little bit to the extreme, which is fine, but it really helps a lot. So I would say those 5 things, start off with those 3 in the morning. Yep. The night before is when you do that brain dump, mental, just flush, get it out of there. So you've got your to-do list.
Great.
Set up.
Sounds like favors. It sounds like from the Morning Miracle, right? Yeah. Yes, scripting and affirmations, and I love it. It's so great. It's a common theme we hear often, right, with people that are successful, is you start your day slow and introspectively, and then you're ready to launch.
Now, is there a book with?
Yeah, it's called The Morning Miracle.
Well, I'll be darned. I didn't know.
Well, my friend, you could have co-written it. It's almost exactly like
all that. No, that thing that you see sitting on the corner of my desk, that's my spiral notebook. So every day I just write the date, except for the weekends, and I'll write, both days. Yeah. And then those 5 things are at the very top, and anything else is underneath, and I color code them. Yeah. For me, yellow is things to do out of the office. Blue are to-do items. Green are phone calls. They don't have specific time frames associated with them. It's just at some point during the day, I need to get those done.
It's great. We always have it. It's not in your schedule. It's not going to happen.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. And it should be as airtight as possible. So, you put in your morning routine, your morning ritual, you put in when you're going to leave for the office. And that morning ritual can include whatever it is that you need to do in the morning to get you going. Think of it like, I used to call it with my son when I was teaching him how to do property management for me. We used to call it the catapult meeting. Every morning we'd have so it's like a big catapult, you're just pulling that rubber band back, and then you let go and zoom, you're right there.
Great call.
Good for you.
Anyway,
Jesse, that's really fantastic. I one of the things, other than your book, just to wrap it up, we always want to find out from people, what if you were going to recommend, if you had to recommend a book or two to a team leader or someone who's a broker owner that made a difference for you in your career, what book would you recommend?
Believe Mike Ferry has a very good book out. It's probably hard to find, to be honest with you right now, because it was written, I think it was written in the 80s.
Great.
I'm not 100% sure about that. Might have been in the 90s, but that was a very good book, actually. And, the funny part about that, I'll just be brief. I started reading the book, and there was an agent here in the area that I didn't like very much. I didn't know him, but I just didn't care for him. Talk about just head trash. And now he's a really dear friend of mine. Figure that one out.
Funny.
But I found out that he was a Mike Ferry agent. And so I put the book down, didn't pick it back up for years. But that's a very good book. There's another one.
What do you remember the name?
What's it called?
If you hadn't asked me, I could have told you. I don't remember. I mean, I've read it. I read that thing so many, I hate to say decades because that makes me seem a lot older than I am, right? But there's another one. Hold on, it's right behind me here. The 7 Levels is another very good one.
Michael Mayer.
Yeah, that's a very good one.
Great.
And gosh almighty, I mean, there's so stinking many good ones.
So many, huh?
I mean, Raving Fans is a very good book, but it takes a while to figure out how do you implement that into your business that's not real estate specific.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't know if there's a lot. I would say that there's probably far more books out there that aren't real estate specific that you can read and instantly apply. And if you want a really good one, if you have a team, and it sounds like a lot of the people that you're going towards have teams, probably the best one I can recommend, which is going to be a funky stinking title, is by a guy named Dan Kennedy, and it's called The No BS Guide to Ruthless Management of People and Profits.
Oh, great. I didn't know he had a BS guide for that. I have probably 3 or 4 Dan Kennedy No BS books.
Which one?
He's great. He
is. I'm going to go hang out with him for a couple of days. Well, he'll only be speaking for a short while in June. Mm-hmm. So he'll be in Independence, Ohio. So neat guy.
Yeah, certainly got the track record of, someone who's got just the chops in direct marketing and it's a great franchise. The No BS books are a great franchise of stuff. So I didn't know he had one about managing people. That's awesome.
Yep. It's a very good book. I'm going to be honest with you. If you're a manager, you will be dog ear in just about every stinking page in there, and you'll go through about 1.5 to 2 highlighters in there.
Yeah.
That's great.
That's great. I will definitely check that out. That's fabulous. All right. Well, Jesse, anything we should have asked that we didn't ask?
That you just stole a question that I always use.
There you go.
No, it's a great question to ask. It's one of those things you don't know what you don't know. And so what should I have asked that I hadn't? This is your podcast. I think that you've asked some good questions, and I appreciate very much you guys reaching out and asking me to be on. I hope I've been able to help maybe in some way the listeners and the viewers.
Great. And Jesse, if people want to get a hold of you, what's the easiest way for them to reach out to you? We'll put them in the show notes.
Yeah, the easiest way is just by email. It's Jesse, JESSE, @richagentcoaching.com.
Fabulous.
And they can certainly go to that website as well if they'd like. Or they're welcome to call my office number. I mean, I don't mind giving that out. I'm not like one of these.
Shout it out.
804-746-1512. My extension is 105.
Great. And we'll put all that in the show notes for people to check out. But, Jesse, just so appreciate your time. I mean, again, with the breakdown last week and being back and making it, just really, really appreciate it. It's been a pleasure talking to you. And we can't really thank you enough. Thanks.
I appreciate
great getting to know you.
I appreciate you guys very much. It's been a pleasure getting the chance to chat with you both. And I'm just glad, Christine, you're feeling better. No question about it.
Thanks. Yeah. Me too. Let me tell you. All right, everyone. You've been listening to the Abundant Life podcast with Christine Andreasen, Aaron Hendon, and today, Jesse Lennon. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Abundant Life podcast, brought to you by Christine & Company and eXp Realty, the global online brokerage powered by top agents and cutting-edge technology. If you liked what you heard, consider subscribing wherever you listen to podcasts. Your hosts have been award-winning brokers Christine Andreasen and Aaron Hendon. For more on them, visit ChristineandCompany.com.